Elance is a great way to find contract developers, but we've all heard these nightmare stories about projects that have totally gone off the rails and turned into a nightmare. And the clients then say things like, gee, the reviews were so good for this vendor, I just can't believe it. So in this video, we're going to talk about how to read between the lines when you're reading vendor reviews on Elance. Elance and Odesk have come a long way, but they're still sort of a Wild West marketplace. The reason is that there's no barrier to entry. Anybody can come into Elance and set up a profile and claim to have expertise and start taking contracts. So there's a lot of people gaming the system, and it's hard for clients to really understand the reviews and make a good choice. So here are some tips. These tips mostly pertain to Elance, but they also apply to Odesk and places like that. The first tip, think of it like Yelp. When you read a restaurant review, you're reading the review, but you're also considering the reviewer. Do they have good taste? Do you really want to listen to them? You can do the same thing on Elance. Click through and learn about the reviewer. It only takes a second. Are they professional? Have they written a lot of other reviews? Are they just a complainer? Do they know what they're doing? Consider that. The second one is, don't worry too much about an occasional negative review. Even the best vendors are going to have a few bad reviews here and there. Some clients can't be satisfied. Some clients are just complainers, and nobody's perfect. So don't worry too much if there's a few bad reviews. That's okay. Then we get to some very common antics that some vendors will play. The first one is the premature review. This is when a project first starts and everybody's in sort of a honeymoon period. You're very excited, nothing's gone wrong yet, and the vendor gives the first deliverable, which is usually a graphic design or something like that. The client is thrilled, everybody's so happy, and the vendor says, hey, maybe we can get that review now. And the client agrees to that, not realizing that once you leave a review on Elance, you cannot change the review, you can't retract it, and you can't leave another one. So a shrewd vendor will get it very, very early, knowing that if something goes wrong, they're going to still have a 5-star review. Watch out for this one. Look for signs that the project isn't over yet, especially the date. If the review is 2 weeks after the beginning of the project on a huge project, then that is a premature review. The second common antic is the review under duress. This is the opposite. This happens at the very, very end of the project when usually the client has already given the vendor the money, but the vendor has not given the final deliverable, which is frequently the code. So now the client is beholden to the vendor. And what they don't want to do is leave a crappy review when they're still waiting to get their final deliverable. So the vendor gets them to leave a review and they leave kind of a cold, sort of dry review that is positive but doesn't really say that much, just to get out of the deal. So watch out for these. You want to see a warm review that really seems heartfelt. A perfunctory review might be one under duress. The legitimate reviews that you really want to see are reviews that have lots of detail. They name names of individual people who did a great job. They talk about specifics of why the project went well. They use the past tense, saying things like the project went well, not is going well. And you really want to see multiple reviews from the same client. This is really good because if you can look at one of those clients and vet them as a reasonable client, then you've got that client doing a lot of work for you. They're showing that that vendor is consistent and stable. So those are really good. And be sure to check all of the dates and really think about each one. So to review, consider the source of the review. Don't worry too much about some negatives. Watch out for the premature review. Watch out for the review under duress. And learn to recognize the solid and legitimate reviews that are really going to indicate a good client. And that's how you find a good client and read between the lines when you're reading reviews on Elance.